Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Town Square Media and 106.1 KISS FM proudly bring to you your podcast champions of the world. He's the R to the O to the B. I'm STEVE. We are your hosts with the most, bringing you everything wrestling related from post to post.
Welcome to this edition of Post to Post. Steve, you get me fired up every time, man. Excellent work.
Thank you.
All right, so there's been one major topic the entire wrestling world has been buzzing about over the past 6 or 5 days, or about that long, about a week or so, and that is the confirmed announcement of the brand extension hitting again. I guess you can call this Volume 2, Version 2, the sequel.
Hopefully do this one better.
Brand extension in space, Electric Boogaloo, or whatever you want to call it. All right, so Steve, some news has come along with this announcement. Let's talk about everything. What are your overall impressions about what's about to happen?
I am not excited.
I'm not excited either. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly with this brand extension. Okay. I'm going to start with some positive things.
Okay.
One major positive, and I consider this huge, a major positive is that SmackDown is going live.
Yes.
That to me is an essential first step to making SmackDown relevant.
Yes.
Let's be honest, over the years it has fallen to irrelevance.
Yes.
It is kind of a wasted show. So much so, I can't speak for you, I don't even watch the show.
I rarely watch it.
And I consider myself a huge wrestling fan. Part of our job is to cover wrestling in this podcast.
Yes.
I don't watch SmackDown.
I don't watch SmackDown.
So now I feel like I will kind of be forced to watch SmackDown, which I kind of say in a good way. Yeah. I've bemoaned before about having an abundance of wrestling to watch, and I do feel like I've already got plenty on my plate.
Yes.
But if SmackDown's going live with their own cast and all this stuff, I might need to be tuning in.
Yep.
Which brings me to another negative. A perceived negative. I don't really know why I'm so passionate about this, but they're moving to Tuesday. I don't know why this has me deflated, but I don't want wrestling on Tuesday. I feel like, now follow me here, especially if this
I know exactly where you're going, so go right ahead.
If this is a week of a pay-per-view, you've got 3 hours, if not 4, including pre-show, on Sunday. You've got 3 hours on Monday.
Yep.
Now we've got 2 more hours on Tuesday. This is just a lot all at once.
That's a part-time job.
It is, isn't it?
It is.
You know, and so that feels like the wrong day to me. Plus, it's like, just give us a little break from Monday. Let us digest what we've seen. Let us sit on it. Yeah. Plus, on the weeks where there's not a pay-per-view, you got several days to get ready for a Monday show.
Yes.
I wish there was a way they could do it live on Thursday, but they're not doing it that way.
Yeah.
So that is something I'm not happy about. Your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking forward. I mean, if creative gets out there and they get my attention, maybe I can look past the 10 plus hours of wrestling a week on pay-per-view weeks. But yeah, I'm not excited about having to watch or even wanting to watch wrestling 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll have to see. I think it all lays on creative and how they draw us in.
So let's talk about that. So the ultimate goal of a brand extension is to give each brand their own identity and to essentially create new stars, which is a good goal to have. Like, creating new stars is ultimately a very good idea. And I feel like when the brand extension started the first time, back in like 2002, I believe was the first one, it started with that in mind. It started with that paramount, but eventually it kind of fell apart. Yeah. And I predict that will happen again.
Yes.
So SmackDown started out very important in the in 2002 after the first brand extension. It had several big stars, including the elusive SmackDown 6 we talked about before. Yes. Your Angles, your Benoits, your Guerreros, your Rhinos, your Edges, your Mysterios, those kinds of guys were having great matches. And SmackDown was on equal footing, if not more so, for a little bit, more so than Raw.
Yes, agreed.
And it wasn't long. It was just a few years, if not 1 or 2, before it became the wasteland that it is now. Now, it was never predominantly a live show. There have been live episodes here and there, but it eventually became where the B talent went, where the B writers went, with the B equipment, meaning that it was taped instead of live. So it was never really, outside of those first 2 years or so, positioned to be on equal footing as Raw. Do you think this will happen again? How do you see this playing out?
I eventually see. I mean, creative's got to crack somewhere with having so many hours to write now. I don't know if they'll have separate teams, but
I believe they will.
It's going to crack, and SmackDown's going to get the tail end of it again, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's going to start out even more so than the first round.
Yeah.
Where SmackDown will start out very, very strong.
Yes.
It's on USA now. They've got something to prove. They're making a big deal about it going live. It's really never been a steady live show,
yes.
With a few exceptions here and there. So I do think it's going to start out with a lot of attention, a lot of care, and a lot of promotion. And by starting out, I mean for maybe even a year or two, it will be providing a lot of exciting content. But I do think it will fall back to being the little sister of Raw.
Yeah.
I really do.
I do too.
I'm not a fan. Now, some people will disagree with me, and feel free to. I'm not a fan of having talent exclusive to each show. I wish that they would just write a show that would include 2 shows worth of characters. So, like Monday, you've got Ambrose and Jericho's feud, and then you don't really handle it on Thursday or on SmackDown.
Yeah.
And then on Raw, you have Rollins and Reigns handling their feud, but you don't need it on SmackDown that week. Yeah. Just give us twice as much characters and storylines instead of half as much as we've got now. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Give us the same amount of content and characters, but don't make them brand exclusive.
Yes.
In my opinion. So your thoughts about that?
I think they almost have to be separate entities for this to work. Because I don't want to tune into SmackDown and see half of the show be what I saw last night on Raw. And, I mean, the way to get away from that...
That's what I'm saying. I want them to book it that way.
Okay.
That's the way I want them to book it. But, for example, let's say I like Kevin Owens and Cesaro. Okay. And I like the way they mix it up in the ring.
Yes.
If one's on one show and one's on another, they're not going to.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. Plus, I feel like the whole thing was kind of born to give it that Monday Night War kind of feeling where, if somebody from SmackDown invaded or jumped over to Raw, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
That never happened.
Yeah.
We know that they're all on the same team, so to speak. They're all fighting for the same goal, which Raw and Nitro didn't have. Raw and SmackDown has that. So to me, it's never going to be perceived as exciting to see a Raw guy on SmackDown or vice versa.
Okay.
That's a big problem to me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they can get there. I mean, if they keep them separate long enough and then they have some kind of invasion angle. What I'm worried about is this plump and ready tag team division and how they say everything's on the table. Are you going to start splitting up hot tag teams? That's a mistake.
Or if you put some good tag teams on one show and some good tag teams on another show, you've incredibly weakened your tag division.
Yeah.
Or even worse, because eventually SmackDown got their own tag titles.
Yes.
If there's 2 tag titles, you've incredibly weakened your tag division. And the same goes for world champions. I hate when there's a SmackDown title and a Raw title. Yeah. I would prefer a roaming champion, to be honest with you. One that goes on both shows.
Yeah.
Do you think I meant Roman,
yes.
as in Reigns?
Yeah.
No, I would prefer a champion that goes on both shows than half of a championship.
See, and that's how the first brand extension started, and then Brock Lesnar didn't want to wrestle on the other show, so Triple H was given a championship.
So I'm just really pessimistic as someone who followed the first one very closely. I don't like drafts. They're not exciting to me because you're all on the same team. It's like in real sports, it's exciting because if one guy gets drafted to one team and another guy gets drafted to another team, they don't want each other to win.
Yes.
It's like they're not on the same team. It's really just a different division of the same team, and I know before long SmackDown will be a B show again. Yeah. So that's the way I feel about this. Although I am excited for it to go live, I will probably spend the first few months or weeks or so watching. If I'm liking what I'm seeing, I'll keep SmackDown as part of my routine. Yeah. If not, I'll keep it on Raw or whatever I have to do. So I hope that they're addressing some of these major concerns. The first one should have been so much better than it was, but we need to make sure we don't make those same mistakes, right?
Exactly.
So I'm really, really hoping they pay attention to this.
Me too.
Is there anything else you want to add about the brand extension?
No, I've got to wait and see how it plays out before I put any more in, because we don't really know what all's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just going to have to be, play it by ear.
We've got about 6 more weeks until the thing happens, so of
Yeah.
course we'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the brand extension. For myself, the Rob, my tag team partner, Steve.
I am Das Wunderkind!